Hi everybody, welcome to another tutorial on Continua. In this video I would like to talk about oscillators, and in particular I would like to talk about warp, shape and skew. So first of all, let's decrease a little bit the VCA and let's focus also only on one oscillator so you can clearly hear the differences when I act on the different parameters. So therefore let's take the volume down to 0 for oscillator number 3 and the same for oscillator number 2. Okay, let's focus therefore on oscillator number 1. So first of all, let's start with shape. So let's move the dial to the center here, and when it is at the center, the shape is a sine shape. Let's go up an octave here. Okay, so as I move to the right, that shape will change if I keep pressing. Okay, you can see roughly at after a quarter, right? You see that the waveform has changed to a rectangle. And you can hear the difference in sound. Next, if I keep moving, it will morph into a sawtooth. Okay, perfect. One of the things you notice straight away is that the morphing between shapes is done in a continuous way, so it's calculated, so it's not wave tables, which is important, and that is unique, is one of the unique features of Continua. Now let's move back to the center here, where we have a sine wave. If we move to the left, you can see that wave is not changing. And the reason that it's not changing is because when you're moving to this side, to the left, the dial, it serves as intensity for the warp and the skew settings. Okay, so let's move this up to the top again, and let's start with the skew. What I would say before I go into the explanation of warp or skew is that you should really try those. I will give you one set of examples, but really what you need to do is spend time with Continua in terms of learning how the shape changes, which are visual, and also hearing how the sound change. Okay, so if I move these to the completely to the right, okay, maximum intensity, and I start to arc on the skew, look what happens to the waveform. The top of the sound wave start to get flattened and the bottom gets narrower. And in terms of sound, let's see what it hears, what it sounds. It's almost like sweeping on a band pass filter. Okay, now let's go back to the top here, and let's change the form to rectangle. Okay, like so. Now if I start to act on the skew, what will happen is almost like applying a pulse width modulation to the waveform, so you can see how the waveform is changing. Of course, if you continue and changing the shape to a sawtooth and you apply the skew again, similar effect, but of course applied to a sawtooth. At some point, like so, is almost a triangle as a wave shape. Okay, next what I'm going to do, I'm going to position the skew to roughly the center here, and I'm going to move the dial for the shape right completely to the left to maximum intensity, and I'm starting to act on the warp. So let's see what happens. As you can see, it is acting as if it was a waveform folder or a wave multiplier. Okay, it's almost like apply resonance filter to a sawtooth wave. Of course, if now you move to the left and right the skew, you practically change this the symmetry of the waveform. Now let's set these down to 0 as skew and also the warp to 0. And let's move the wave shape right to where it becomes a rectangle. Now let's start to apply some warp and see what happens. So as you can see, it splits the rectangle waveform, and also the gaps get narrower. And of course, if you have a sawtooth, let's do the same. As you can see, first there is a curve. You see how it changes the curve or the slope, and then you can see also an amp being created. And of course you can apply on top of that your skew as well. And you can see how it's bridging the gaps here. So as you can see, really you need to spend some time with warp and skew to really understand how they work. Look at how the wave shape changes, and look and really listen to how the sound changes as well, to get more and more familiar with these two parameters. Next, there are other things which are interesting in the oscillator section. You can change the transposition here. By semitones. You can do also that by cent for fine adjustment, up to 100 cent or minus 100 cent, which will give you effectively a semitone. Oops. And you can adjust your level here, and then you can send the output to one filter or to both filters as well, which we'll look at there in this section. Of course, if you don't have any filter applied, you don't hear any sound. We have also the possibility to do frequency modulation. We'll look at that in another tutorial, but you can see it is down here, and you can see the settings to practically modulate oscillator 1 with oscillator 2. You see the intensity here, and how to modulate oscillator 2 with oscillator 3. Again, you see the intensity here. I hope you enjoyed this. Have fun with Continua. Bye.